If you've been alive on Earth for any considerable length of time, then you've probably at least heard of Dungeons and Dragons. Depending on what you've heard though, you might imagine either epic adventures and complex battle against mythical foes and evil warlords, or sweaty nerds locked up in a dusty basement that smells like a sewer. As a D&D player myself, I'd like to say that both situations are indeed correct. For the uneducated, Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game where a group of people gather around a table and each interpret a character, while a dungeon master guides them through a story where he's the absolute authority, using the rules explained in so-called manuals. The game has its roots in the 70s, and it's still relevant to this day, although not in its original form. You see, D&D has had many editions, with 5th being the latest, but manuals released for one edition aren't compatible with previous or following iterations. As such, content that was released for a specific edition isn't guaranteed to make a comeback in later editions, and that is the case with a lot of monsters, which are the creatures players are supposed to encounter and possibly fight. But what if I told you that of all the forgotten creatures from D&D's many compendiums, there's one that stands out as being oddly unused, but at the same time, kinda used? To begin this story, we have to first talk about Neverwinter. Neverwinter is an MMORPG game released back in 2013, which takes its gameplay partly from the 4th edition of D&D, and takes place in the Forgotten Realms, which has been the official setting for most of D&D's content for quite a while now. I do quite like the game, as you can tell from some of my other videos on the channel, despite all of its flaws and its near abandoned status. Neverwinter has received multiple large updates over the years, called modules, and one of them is Module 8, Underdark, released back in 2016. This module introduced the demon enemies, many of which are iconic and have been used in many other materials and games. All except one of them, the Zethar. Zythar? Whatever, it's this guy. This flaming fiend wearing a suit of armor has appeared in Neverwinter since then, and he's still used to this day by the devs, even in relatively recent modules like Descent into Avernus. His whole shtick is that he's a flaming demon, of which there aren't that many all things considered. Aside from that, he's pretty unremarkable. Shoots fire, raises pillars of flame, and bursts upon death. As far as I could see, the Zithar hasn't been used in any other D&D material ever since, and searching for its name on Google leads to almost nothing relevant. Most importantly, it doesn't seem to have a personal page on the Forgotten Realms wiki, which usually lists every monster that's been released in any sourcebook over the years. But the fact that this seems not to be the case for the Zithar, despite being used in a pretty popular D&D game, is extremely weird. About the previously mentioned Google results though, one of them is of a Neverwinter Nights 2 mod, similar name but different games, where it's added into the game as a creature and looks like a flaming skeleton basically. This page contains some exclusive lore about the Zithar that I've never seen mentioned anywhere else. The mod is from 2014, which is 2 whole years before the module for Neverwinter released. This means that if the Zithar actually does come from somewhere, it must be something that predates the mod. And our answer, of all places, lies in a Polish wiki website about Planescape, which is a completely different setting altogether. But thanks to Google Translate, I was able to find out that this demon was first introduced in a sourcebook called Demonomicon, released in 2010 for 4th edition, the one Neverwinter was based on. Editing Oathbound here, and I just noticed that if you search for Zithar in the Forgotten Realms wiki, you actually do get the page for the Demonomicon, and it even lists its name. That's why it comes up in the search. So yeah, the Polish wiki page could probably be avoided. I have no idea how I missed it, but yeah. Enjoy! Now, how was I supposed to track down an old D&D sourcebook from 2010 to find out more information about this elusive creature? Well, I so happen to know a magic incantation that has the chance to make you find whatever book your heart desires. To perform this secret art, just type the name of any sourcebook of your choosing, specify the edition it came out for, and add the 3 magic letters at the end. PDF. And voila! I found the book. And lo and behold, the Zithar's name is there in the summary, the very last demon in the book. And yep, that is indeed the Zither. The lore blurb matches with the one in the mods page, and as for the stats, well, I can barely understand them, since I don't know how 4th edition works. But they are there and accounted for. Well, that wasn't such a hard find, was it? So, why exactly is this weird and interesting? You see, most of the monsters that appear in only one rulebook are usually completely forgotten and they're never used anywhere else. This is not the case for the Zither, which is a pretty common enemy for any Neverwinter player. Despite this, it's so irrelevant that it's not even deserving of a page in the Forgotten Realms wiki, apparently. I've never seen anything like this. Every time I've played other D&D games, all of the monsters that appeared in said game I was able to trace back to a wiki page, but not this time. To honor our flaming friend, I decided to try and convert his stats for 5th edition, while making him more interesting overall. When thinking about what I could add to make him fit more and give him more of a niche, I thought of another demon that likes to play with fire. The Zither that I came up with is basically a hovering archvile in plate armor, design-wise. Regarding his stat block, I got inspired by the Doom Baddie in that department as well. Firstly, I gave it a simple flame projectile, which takes its name from one of the attacks it had in 4E. Also, it still explodes on death, although this time it's merely cosmetic. The new stuff I gave it is a Pillar of Flame attack. It requires a dex save to get out, lest you get badly damaged and knocked up and away from its center. Not only that, but I also decided to give it a fancy new resurrection move to raise recently slain demons to fight again. Since it's so fun when that happens in Doom, right? I leave the full stat block that I uploaded on D&D Beyond in the description if any one of you wants to try it out. Especially since I don't really know whether it's underpowered, overpowered, or if it's just fine the way it is. And this is where the story of the Zither ends, at least for now. Will we ever see an official version of this creature in 5th edition? Maybe in the upcoming Planescape sourcebook, since it could make thematic sense, or maybe it will be forever damned to just be a random enemy in a game that almost nobody plays anymore, and its legacy will end there. Well, whatever the case, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and that you stick around for more content.